So I'm moving bees, and the bees started to take flight all of a sudden. So before I could get a chance at moving another yard out, I decided to shift back into assessing hives. I just want to show you a hive that I just come upon. I'll call this one a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll call it a 6-framer. It looks pretty decent on the bottom. But I'm looking on the bottom board, and I see a shit ton of chalk brood mummies on the bottom. Now these aren't fresh. These are from last year. They haven't gotten around to cleaning it out yet. So I'll scrape that off the bottom board, which puts a strike against this queen. She still looks pretty good. Like she's sporting 6 frames of bees. And gonna put a strike, I'm gonna put a tag on this just to go down, we'll check. And if she continues on with a poor spring nest with chalk brood, then we're gonna pinch that queen off and put a queen cell in just to replace her. I don't have my smoker going. Just want to dig down just to see what's going on in here. So they're devouring the Nutri-Bee patty. That's good to see. Skies felt a little bit light. Once I get this yard moved out, I think I'm going to send another feed round. Spend some more money on syrup. We still have some honey in here. That's good. It's a good frame of honey with either nectar or syrup stored, so they're not starving. Should get that smoker going. I always like to have smoke on hand working the beehives. Every time I open up a beehive, it's nice to be able to give them a little blast of smoke. It's typically what I do. I use the smoker as a bit of a whip. This hive has lots of bees in it. So the guys just come through to drop strips. So this whole frame is full of eggs. So she's probably close. Where are you? And so is this side. Freshly laid eggs. So she's either on this frame or the next one. Packed full of eggs. The eggs that have just hatched are swimming in the royal jelly, which is what I want to see. I don't see any pollen so far. So all the pollen they've been bringing in, obviously, there's a little bit there. It's obviously been eaten, devouring the patty. So they're not falling into protein stress at all. So that's good. It's one thing about an interruption, weather interruption like this, and then she starts developing out a massive brood nest. It really puts a demand on resources. So either we provide it through supplement, or they have it inside stored as reserves. We've got to be very careful as we promote these massive nests that we make sure there's enough resource on hand. Here's a nice frame of brood. Otherwise they fall into protein stress, and you don't want them walking backwards, you want them walking forwards at all times. I believe whenever a colony falls into protein stress, it just opens up the window for disease to take hold. So we want to keep them from falling into any type of stress to keep them healthy and moving forward. I don't think that smoker's going. It'd be nice to be able to chase them down a little bit here. They're getting a little busy. Here's a nice frame of brood. Beautiful. This frame will be hatching in a week or so. So any space in all these frames have all been filled up with eggs. This queen is 100%. Oh, I lost track of how many frames of brood here. It's looking pretty good. So we have new bees walking around now. I'm seeing new bees, which is perfect. This frame's hatching out. So this is an older frame of brood. So as we go through here, we're getting into older frames, and these bees are hatching out. So according to my math, whoops, and the calendar, there should be a pretty good hatch going on right about now, which will turn over that winter nest. So we are moving into spring. Look at the brood here. Oh man. Still haven't found her. This frame's going to be hatching out in about a week. Oh, there she is. And I don't have to go any further. This next frame is another frame of brood I'm seeing. There's at least 4 frames of brood. They're going to be hatching out in about a week. So when you look at your brood frame, you look at the brood, and when they hatch, you can multiply that by 3. So that one, let's say that one frame of brood will turn into 3 frames of bees. So when I'm looking at a colony this big, this is a box of bees, and they have at least 4 frames of brood that's going to hatch out in about a week. They're turning over their winter nests, so the old bees are dying off, being replaced by new bees. This next nest that's being developed here, that all this young brood, young larvae, that's growth. That's going to turn into growth, and that's what we have to provide space for. So I'm looking at this winter nest. She's going to be turned over right smartly here, if it already hasn't happened, and all stages of brood and development moving forward. So I'm going to have to get more space onto these guys in about a week. 10 days is going to be too long. So this box of bees is going to instantly turn into close to 2 boxes of bees in about 2 weeks. So we have to get another box onto these guys next week. So we got to find some weather for that. Through my talks and through my videos, I'm always yapping about keeping this nest tight throughout the spring to just develop them into close quarters, because when you keep them tight, they make more efficient of their space. They're able to put their resources in a more accessible place to be able to access it when it gets colder. I just find they develop better early spring in tighter quarters, but when they start to develop and grow, you got to be Johnny on the spot with putting space on them. Otherwise, these guys will turn instantly from growth into, you know, swarm. And we want to avoid that. We want to keep those bees. So we are just about to shift from, you know, developing this spring nest into growing this spring nest, and that's going to happen next week. Right now the crew is scraping up boxes, cleaning up the dead outs, cutting more patties. We're going to provide space. We're going to come around next week and we're going to identify all these blue tags that I'm putting out here. Mark all the strong ones with blue tags, and they instantly get a box on top. So I want to add the space on top for two reasons. One, I want to maintain this bottom box as a brood nest, and I want to take the top off as a split. Okay, so I'm going to organize that top box with accordingly. I'll show you next week, but we'll organize it to be able to tell that queen how big of a nest we want growing up on top that we can take away. Second reason is the queen will stovepipe and she'll move up. She'll move up easier than she'll move down. So we want to put the box up on top. The bees will come up on top and clean out that top box. The queen will come up and lay in there, and then either she'll go back down to the bottom and lay, or we'll push her down. This is a fantastic looking nest. I am really encouraged by what I just seen there. It means we got to start getting really busy here. I'm not seeing too many drones in here yet. As soon as I start seeing walking drones on the comb, then that's when I want to start grafting. But I haven't really seen too many drones being developed in there yet. So we'll just kind of hang on to our hats here, just let things progress. And Mother Nature will tell us when it's time to start rearing queens. According to what I've seen in here, it's a little bit early yet. I know a producer, fairly large beekeeper, and he's queen rearing already. And it might be a little bit early, but he says he's seeing drones walking within his big nests. So what he's doing is he's starting to queen rear, and he's targeting those big nests, those early drones. He's targeting the excellence within his apiary. So his queens are going to go out. So he's chose his queen mother, fantastic genetics. Those queens are going to go out, and they won't have anybody to mate with but those fantastic drones and those early colonies. So he's focusing on maybe not having an abundance of drones, but focusing on the highest quality of genetics that he wants to mate his queens with. So it's kind of an interesting strategy. I'm not quite that organized yet. I can't imagine starting to graft yet because we're so far behind. We just started seeding. I haven't assessed all these hives yet. We need to get feed on. I got to move them all out. There's so much going on, so I'm not going to trip myself over trying to adopt that strategy he's working on right now. But we are going to be ready. I bet you in 10 days, I bet you we drop a graft. This one was marked strong from last year, 2016. So this is one of the hives we're going to target for one of our mating queens. Anything that shows a queen that's 2017 and older, and that it was strong assessed last year, I'm going to get Carrie to go around and just do an assessment within the nest to see if it's something we want. This is a potential. I'm just going to mark this one. It's a smaller guy, probably a 3-frame. Just leave him alone. One, two, three, four, five, maybe 6. Just going to leave them alone. Guy's a little bit light. It's a little guy though. Something's going on in there maybe, we'll see. We'll come back around next week and check up on all these gray tags. Ooh, those guys are right on the line. I don't know what to do with them. You can see they're tearing apart the wax paper around the patties. It's stuck inside because of the weather. They're devouring that patty. Those are dead. A little patch of bees in here. So these guys are starved. Got mist. Nothing in here. Some pollen. Just a little bit of honey on the outside. So they're done for. So I just shake them out. I'll take this back to the honey house, and just a little patch of bird there. Kill off the queen. Not worth my effort to try to salvage this hive. just no food. So 2016. So we'll take this box back to the honey house to get cleaned up to be made up for a split. They're sure off to the one side. I'll get the guys when we come back through to tidy up the tops of the bars. I'll get them to center that box. Box will be nice and heavy. Four or five. Three bottom boards. For the most part, I don't scrape the bottom boards of the hives. I find the hives generally will clean that up themselves. Except when I come across a smaller guy, can't help but to give him a little bit of assistance and just clean up the bottom board for all the time it takes. But for the most part, these colonies can look after their own house. And yeah, otherwise I'll be scraping every bottom board when they can do it themselves. So I'm just getting my smoker going, using some pine bark. The reason why I like using that is because it smells fantastic. So that's going. So I've just shifted from moving bees to working bees. The bees have started flying, so I've kind of switched my day. And we just received a bunch of snow, melted into some nice moisture for the landscape. And I'm just noticing the bees are everywhere around these puddles, gathering up moisture. Look at them on the ground there. But there's one spot here, there's a little bit of a rut. I got stuck as I come through here setting the bees out of the shed. They're everywhere down in this rut. Now, I would say that they're after the moisture, but I'm starting to think it's probably they're accessing some type of mineral. Just the wet ground is allowing them to access the mineral, uptake it, and then bring it into the hive. So there's obviously something. There's something down in here which they are readily, look at them dig away at that. So they're actively digging down in the soil and they're accessing something. So whatever it is, they want it and they found their opportunity to gather it. So on my last round, we're coming through and I identified this bottom unit as queenless. It's obviously a queenless unit due to the roar. There is no brood going on inside, but there's like 4, maybe 5 frames of bees. And I wanted to salvage them. So what I did is I also identified this top unit here further back in the yard as a small unit. I always talk about a population threshold. This unit was below the population threshold, but the queen inside just was showing hints of integrity and initiative. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to boost this top colony with these bees. So I wanted to salvage this queenless unit by boosting up this top unit. So what I'm going to do is I want to go down and I want to take a peek. I want to see if the merger was successful. What I did is I put a piece of newspaper in between the two. So what I'm anticipating is these bees in the bottom unit, who are queenless, would choose through a newspaper, move up to this queen-right unit up top and merge successfully. And what I anticipate seeing inside this colony is a well-defined nest. I want to see the continued vigor from that queen. Now that she has more bees to work with, she should have been able to expand that nest, and she should be in growth mode. So I just want to see what's going on inside. The crew had gone through last week medicating, so there's strips in this top unit. And I am seeing, the first frame I pull out here is a frame full of eggs, mature larvae, and freshly capped brood. Same in this. It's real nice. So it appears the merger was successful. I'm counting 3 frames of bees up top here. And a solid frame of brood. This is really nice. Feel some weight to this frame because look at the... She is obviously a good queen. Look at the brood nest that she's rearing right now. All the spaces here are full of mature larvae. Beautiful. Another beautiful frame of brood. This is exactly what I wanted to see. And this frame is just packed full of mature larvae, just about to get capped. Alright. So what I've done is I've salvaged this queenless unit down below by boosting up a smaller unit, which probably would be falling backwards right about now because they just didn't have enough bees. And for whatever circumstance, this top unit was small. It probably was out of the control of that queen. Sometimes these small colonies are of no fault of the queen. Just unfortunate circumstances sometimes fall upon them. Okay, so I didn't find her up top, and what I'm seeing is I'm seeing that brood nest stretching down into that bottom box, which I don't really want. So I'll see what's going on down below. And then I want to find the queen, just so maybe I'm wrong. I thought it looked like they're stretching the nest down into the bottom box here, and I'm not seeing any evidence of that right now. There she is. She's camouflaged. And she is growing her abdomen quite nicely. Little red and black one. Just beautiful. So these guys will need more supplement when we come around. Now, I'm going to take this colony and just shake them in. Okay, so we'll take this box back to the honey house and the guys will scrape it up. And we'll count this as a successful merger. We'll just leave this colony untagged. We'll let them grow and develop, and it'll just become anonymous within the rest of the apiary. So I just want to show you something I'm finding. So I'm working through the yards. 2015. This one has no tag. Here's a 2014. I'm finding more and more of these. There's a 17. Just going to put a box on both them. 2015, 2017, 2014, 2015. Now here's a 2015. That is a box of bees. Absolutely brilliant. 2016, 2016. So what I'm looking for within my apiary when I'm choosing my breeder queens, I'm looking for that hive that is kind of perpetual. I want to develop a queen within that nest. I want her to establish and drive that nest. And then I want them to take care of their own business. When the queen runs out, they supersede her, replace her. And then they continue on reestablishing that nest, developing it out, making me money. I don't want to have to replace queens every year. There's a lot of argument amongst beekeepers that have gone the route of adopting annual requeening, and there's a lot of theory behind that. That's fine, and this probably makes for a more productive hive. But I've kind of, my train of thought kind of strays past that, beyond that. I'm looking for my breeders, I'm looking for something that's going to establish and just continue on, look after itself, renew itself. When there troubles occur, then I come down and I fix it up. So I'm kind of finding throughout my breeding that I'm seeing a lot of old established hives here, more and more of that. As years go by, I'm finding more older established hives that just seem to perpetuate themselves, and that's the characteristics I'm looking for, right? I'm not spending any money buying queens. I'm building my own queens. I'm establishing them through my nukes, sending them through winter, throwing them in the next year, identifying the weaker, the problem hives throughout the apiary the following year, dropping cells into them, making more nukes, just kind of continual reestablishment and focusing on all the characteristics that I want within my apiary to propagate through my operation. And as it goes through, I'm going to start seeing the characteristics that most suit my management style and my operation, and whatever can live on this farm is what I'm going to establish and develop out as queens. And I'm going through my stock this spring, and I'm extremely happy and encouraged. Some of this pure brilliance that I'm searching for all the time, that I want to promote and establish within my operation. It's really encouraging, and it's something that I want to promote and embrace.